What's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the 2025 Nissan Rogue Rock Creek alongside the 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Outer Banks. Both of these off-road focused crossovers are just over $38,000 as tested and are both utilizing a 3-cylinder engine. The Rogue only has that available. The Bronco, if you're willing to spend over $40,000, you can get a 4-cylinder. But with that said, shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing the Bronco Sport and Nissan USA for providing the Rogue. Let's get into it, see which off-road crossover is the better choice. Starting off with the powertrains for the 2025 Bronco Sport Outer Banks, you're gonna find a 1.5 liter inline 3-cylinder turbocharged motor with 181 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque. This also utilizes an 8-speed automatic transmission. It is 4-wheel drive. Max towing capacity is around 2,200 pounds, and it can get 25 miles per gallon in the city with 30 out on the highway, all running on a 16-gallon fuel tank. For the 2025 Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, you're also going to get a 1.5 liter inline 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. This has 201 horsepower with 225 pound-feet of torque. This one gets a CVT for the transmission. It is all-wheel drive. It has a 14.5 gallon fuel tank. You're looking at 27 in the city with 32 out on the highway with max towing capacity at 1,500 pounds. Now for the exterior styling, they are significantly different. I think they both actually look pretty cool. The Ford Bronco Sport starts its life as a more off-road focused rugged crossover over a Ford Escape. The Nissan Rogue does start off as a standard vehicle. The Rock Creek basically adds everything to the standard car itself. But the Rogue has a pretty cool design with the dual design for the headlights. Got the nice massive grille, orange accents, forward-facing camera. I like the blacked out grille overall. It does look pretty sporty and off-road focused. Rugged set of tires along with a matte black set of wheels. Rock Creek logo as well. Both of these cars, of course, have some pretty cool color options. Ford Bronco Sport, very retro design with Bronco written out. Nice design on the LED headlights. Much more boxy versus the Rogue. Cool set of wheels as well with a diamond cut finish, and then you have some plastic trim on both cars for the lower side. Bit more boxy once again for the side profile on the Bronco Sport, and the two-tone roof looks pretty cool as well. Making our way in back, once again very squared off for the Bronco Sport, a bit more rounded on the Nissan. So honestly, I don't think there's a clear winner. They both definitely have some cool characteristics for a compact crossover with the rugged vibe. For the interior on the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, you're going to get black primary color. You're going to see some of the soft touch synthetic leather with the contrast orange stitching on the door panels. The seats are two-tone with the fabric as well as the leather material, so it has a cool look overall. On the multimedia screen, it is touchscreen. It's a little bit outdated for sure. The touchscreen, you really have to kind of press it, so definitely not the most up-to-date system out there. You basically just have the basics throughout it. Down below that, we have physical climate controls, heated seats and steering wheel. There is wireless phone charging storage all throughout the center. Drive modes as well, you can configure these. It'll pop up on the screen. We have the Eco, Sport, Auto, and a couple off-road ones. With the off-road, you do get a nice camera system. Again, smaller screen, but you can get a good look at the front as well as the sides. If I go into reverse, you have a nice backup camera that can adjust, and then you can toggle this, of course, and view all the different views. So overall, decent camera system, just on a smaller screen. You have paddle shifters to adjust the programming with the CVT transmission, all your basic controls. The screen itself, mainly analog with a little bit of a screen in the center as well. And then just a decent look overall. Nothing too fancy, however, it'll get the job done with a decent style overall. And then now in the Ford Bronco Sport, you're going to get two massive screens for multimedia as well as the gauge cluster. Really cool design right here with all sorts of different configurations. You have the settings that'll pop up. You have lots of different features, full navigation. Climate is integrated into the screen, but it's actually very user-friendly and easy to get to. So you can see everything popping up. This one also has a shortcut for the camera, and given it's a much larger screen, the camera itself is a lot larger. Going into reverse, once again, pretty large screens. Multimedia screen in the center has a pretty cool design. You can configure quite a lot and even go into a column view and see all sorts of different things. This one has some cool brown accents throughout it, soft touch materials. I really do like the two-tone. And then these seats have the synthetic leather along with a cool fabric. So definitely a bit more up-to-date interior in the Bronco Sport, especially having different two-tone options. We have drive modes as well that you can configure, and you're also going to get a really large display showing you everything. So a little bit more configurable with this. And then of course, just a nice look at the steering wheel and everything. We have some shortcuts down below, wireless charging, storage, cup holders as well. So I think the Bronco Sport is a bit more up-to-date, cooler use of materials too, and just a pretty roomy place overall. Hopping into the back seat with the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek. So I'm 5'11", and with that, I have maybe like 6 inches of headroom. Driver's seat at my height, I have plenty of knee room as well. I feel really high up over the driver, so it is a bit interesting view from back here. The seat bases are kind of low, so my legs don't have the best support, as you can tell. You do get the armrest and cup holders in the center. There's also going to be air vents. You have 2 USB ports, a little bit of storage, decent armrest on the left. And the backrest, there's no extra reclining. It's at a decent angle, but I definitely feel like I could kind of slide off the front. So it's fine back here with enough amenities. I wouldn't say it's the greatest backseat in the world, but certainly not the worst, and gives you plenty of room overall. Now onto the Bronco Sport. It is also worth mentioning this has about 1.5 inches shorter wheelbase than in the Rogue Rock Creek. So again, 5'11", I have a ton of headroom. There's like 9 inches here, and I like this seating position a bit better. I'm more in line with the seats in front of me. However, there is definitely less knee room. My knees are just about touching the seat at my height. You're still going to get amenities like the air vents, plugs, nice storage cubbies on both of the back seats, and you're also going to see the armrests and cup holders on this 3-seat bench row. This seat does feel a little bit more comfortable. I feel like it's supporting my legs much better. As you can tell down here, it's actually going to the end, which is nice. The backrest, once again, is still similar to the angle of the Nissan, pretty straight up overall. But I would say it's almost a toss-up, better legroom in the Nissan. However, this seat is in a much more comfortable position. So kind of a toss-up, but nonetheless, both are a little bit on the small side, as you would expect, but very useful. Moving on to the cargo space. For the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, you're going to get a power liftgate. Pressing that button, it is going to automatically pop open. Over on the Ford Bronco Sport, you can independently open the glass. So I can press that button and manually pop open the glass, which is a pretty cool touch. And then you have a button right here to manually lift open this area. Now, for the overall cargo volume in the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, behind the second row, you're going to get 36.5 cubic feet of space. So definitely a pretty roomy back end overall. You're going to see a little cubby on the far left as well as the far right side. And then underneath the floor, you are going to get a spare tire back here. For the Ford Bronco Sport, behind the second row, this is going to have 32.5 cubic feet. So this is a little bit smaller, as you can tell. However, still is pretty roomy. This model does not have a spare under here. However, some of them do. Now, from here, you can easily grab this button and push these seats forward to gain extra cargo space. Now, with them folded, you do have just a small bump, which isn't too bad. And now you have 65.2 cubic feet of volume. And then for the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, you're going to get 74.1 cubic feet when you pop these forwards. So once again, you can easily reach them, and they'll get forward a little bit flatter as well. So overall, a little bit roomier in the Nissan, as you can tell, with a little bit extra tech in it, which is a nice touch to see comparing both of these SUVs. So setting off in the Ford Bronco Sport to get our bearings with everything, just normal mode, slowly getting up to 40 miles an hour. Really doesn't seem to struggle or anything. You don't notice the gear changes. It basically feels pretty normal to drive. You have a lot of good interior space. I overall like sitting in here. The seats are very comfortable. Armrests are pretty good. And I like the layout. It feels like a pretty new, up-to-date vehicle. The use of materials is pretty good too for the price. You know, obviously it's not a high-end luxury car or anything super refined, but it feels sporty, it feels rugged, it feels up-to-date. The screen works well. I like the climate integration. It all is super simple. So it feels like something that, yeah, it's a brand new car. It makes a lot of sense. Ride quality, you know, you feel some bumps a little bit. It's overall smooth. However, again, this is a more rugged, tailored vehicle to where, you know, Ford Escape is going to be the one with a bit smoother ride. But it seems comfortable. The seats have a lot of good padding, good adjustability, and we know off-road these are pretty darn capable. As far as turning circle and things like that, the steering feel I do like. It's light, but also gives you plenty of feedback. Of course, you can take a good look at the camera system, help you out on that 3-point turn. So it seems like a kind of pretty nice to drive vehicle overall. You got all the parking sensors, tech, things like that. If we go into the sport mode, it will sharpen up the turbo, the throttle response a little bit. Not bad at all. Half throttle up to 40, and it seems to move without stressing the engine and without going high into the revs. Even from 40, giving it some throttle, up to 52, not bad at all. So it seems like you're not really sacrificing to have a 3-cylinder. This seems adequately powered. I think the transmission does a really good job delivering the power, and it's decently refined. Sometimes you might feel a little jerkiness to it, but again, this is a 3-cylinder. You know, it's not going to be as refined as something a lot bigger. So overall, driving this, I really don't have any major complaints. It seems very roomy, and it's just a nice car to be in. You got the rugged aspects for the adventure, and it's also still roadworthy enough to be just a fine daily. The cruise control seems to work fine. Great view around, good visibility. Can't really complain. Seems like a solid choice. On to the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek now. So with this, obviously the CVT is probably going to be one of the biggest differences comparing the two versus the 8-speed. That is a nice touch in the Ford Bronco. When you are driving this honestly feels pretty equally comfortable. In fact, some roads this feels a little bit smoother, so a little bit more like a traditional crossover. And obviously with the Bronco Sport, that's basically a rugged Ford Escape. The normal Escape would compete with a normal Rogue. So when you take the Rogue and soup it up to be the Rock Creek, you know, it's still going to have some of the characteristics of a traditional SUV, a little crossover, while the Bronco Sport is already a bit more rugged. So I am finding this does have a little bit better driving characteristics, just by a little, not by a lot, but it does feel a little bit smoother depending on the road. Keep it in automatic. So the CVT really doesn't shine in the high RPMs. Now, I wasn't really able to floor it and redline it in the Bronco being brand new. This one, of course, is a car with a lot of miles on it. So the CVT, once you hit redline, it kind of whines in the higher RPM where it doesn't really have any more power to give. It just kind of feels like a slipping clutch manual transmission. So with that though, this has more power, more horsepower and torque by a decent amount. I feel like in the slow speed, just giving it a little bit of throttle, it does carry the speed a bit better. You can feel the extra power, and I don't really mind the CVT in the slower speeds. Now, when you're getting up onto the highway, things like that, where you need to get going 70, 80 miles an hour, I don't really like it. I like the 8-speed way better. But around town, this does feel smooth enough. You get a little bit extra of that power, and it really does kind of feel like one power band until you hit the red line. But normally that's after 45 miles an hour. Drawbacks, the interior definitely outdated compared to the Bronco. This feels like something maybe 10 years ago. The Bronco Sport feels pretty cool with the colors, the big screens, the graphics all look good, and it's all just really integrated to be a nice modern car. This one is very behind. A lot of people will like that though. Some people just like a simple interior with basic buttons, basic screens, and just something to drive in, no big deal. So driving characteristics, there's a lot of similarities, but I think overall I like a little bit extra power in this. I do prefer the transmission in the Bronco. I prefer the interior of the Bronco for sure. A little bit better visibility in this. So yeah, nothing crazy setting them apart. Yeah, the transmission. We got to ditch the CVTs. Normal transmissions are significantly better. But if you're looking for something sub 40 grand, you know, I think either one is going to be good off-road, good enough, I would say. Neither of these are Jeep Wranglers, big Broncos, you know, 4Runners or anything like that to go off-roading in the rock crawling sense. But either of these is going to be pretty adequate for going on the trails, the camping trips, things like that. I think they're both going to be exactly what you need when hitting the trails and doing things like that. This one's going to give you a little bit better cargo space, so you might be able to pack it a little bit more. But I think fundamentally there are very close competitors. Just you get a little edge I'm noticing on the Bronco with the tech, but overall driving characteristics is very similar between the two. So ending thoughts after driving the Rock Creek versus the Bronco Sport. They're very similar overall for sure, and these as tested are nearly the exact same price point. I do like the 8-speed transmission a lot better in the Bronco. CVTs are just not really the best out there. It is fine for a CVT. I mean, I kind of like how it has the programmed gear, so it feels a bit more normal, but it kind of whines a little bit versus the 8-speed is a lot smoother and quieter to drive. Power levels, they do feel very similar. You can feel a little bit more power in the Nissan, however. Interior, that's where there is a huge difference. The Ford's interior is definitely a lot nicer. It is very nice and up to date. There's very cool interior options available and color combinations to make this just feel like a bit more modern vehicle and a nicer, well-rounded package. The Nissan is a bit more simple. The tech is very basic, so it's missing a little bit on the interior to make it feel new and special. With that, the Ford Bronco Sport offers so many trim levels, so many colors, so many of everything, even 2 engine options. So there's a lot more configurability with the Bronco Sport. Nissan still has like 5 or 6 trim levels. The top line luxury one is pretty cool. And of course you can get an inexpensive base model. So I think overall, I think the Bronco Sport has a bit more going for it. Basically the biggest drawbacks are the Nissan is just the simple interior. It's just old school and kind of basic, and the transmission. You got a lot of cargo space in here, a little bit more comfortable seats in here. But overall, they both have some cool things to offer. I just think the Ford is outwinning just a little bit. But comment below, what are your thoughts if you're looking to spend under 40 grand on a rugged compact crossover? Which one are you gonna take? If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.